James Ivor says, don't forget about my huge reel of screenshots. Well, we'll have a look and see. If there's too many, then I won't have time to go through them all, though. So that's why I say you're best off sending me sort of 3 or 4 of your best ones. Right. I'm going to get the... so I'm going to put this back on to the game now. I'm going to get rid of the camera, and I'm going to get rid of the cab, so that it's not going to get in the way of anything. And we'll change the promo to tutorial signaling UK. So this is basically, I'm going to focus on UK signaling, but a lot of the principles I'm going to cover are standard common stuff that will be applicable elsewhere as well. But I want to do it on a specific set of signals so that I can talk reasonably specific. I'm going to be specifics that we're going to be specific about. There you go. Right, so I'm in my own little version of the game that hasn't got any DLC, so I can show you menus and things. So let's just go ahead and create a new route. So we create new route. At the bottom here, we pick a texture set. So in this case, I'm going to pick that one. Now, if we're going to type your own latitude and longitude, make sure you select the texture set first, because it will update the latitude and longitude and wipe out what you thought you were going to put in there. So for now, I'm going to leave it where it is, and we're going to just call this one signal test. Now it creates the route and leaves you there. You then have to go and press edit. Okay, so the way I've described this previously is it's a basic guide to signalling. This is going to be, anyone who's done much with signalling and understands the basics probably isn't going to get much out of this. So, but there's a few pointers that I wanted to get across that I see a number of people making mistakes on. Cheers, Henry, and I shall see you tomorrow. Right. So the first thing we need to do is get some track down, and then we can look at the rest. So let's get some track down. Remember, always reselect the track rule down here, and always pick your track off of this menu, not off of this menu, because that will make sure that you're using the currently. So this is track based on the current track rule, which you select from down here. Sometimes this is, even though this is set, when you go in here, there's nothing in here, so you're tempted to go in here and pick it. That's when things like junctions don't work. So over here we'll just do track concrete, and we'll lay a nice straight track. Now what I'm going to do is over here I'm going to use a is it that one? I can never remember. That's that one. Click that. No, we have to get it right. Click that, and then we get the tool. So that's the crossover tool. So it's this crossover tool here. So you click that, and then you click the track type you want. It needs to be the same as the one that you're doing the junction on. You click that, and then you can draw a junction. Tune it how you want it to be, and then click, and that will draw you a nice even point that's parallel to the track at the appropriate distance. So then we can take that and draw another line down here. And if you want to rejoin them together, what we can do is cross over track and right click, deselect everything, cross over, then your track, and we need to do it this way round if I remember rightly, and we'll put that, and then we'll link that in there. Right, so that's got some nice crossovers, and we'll actually leave this in here as a kind of a siding. So this route has such detail, it does indeed, and the frame rate is astronomical, it really is. Yes, Woody, if you can drop me a message, then I can just reply to the message, that's the easiest bit. So what we want to do, the idea of signalling is to protect all the trains on the route. Now, one of the things that you need to get really straight in your mind when you're doing signalling on the game is that it's less about the way that it works in the real world, and more about the way it works in the game. Now, in theory, there's a very, very strong overlap between the two, but If there is anywhere that the two differ in their opinion, you must go with the way the game wants you to do it, which means you might find yourself putting extra signals where there aren't in real life. If you miss those signals out, then you have a major problem, and your route will start behaving strangely. So I'm going to start off by just dropping a couple of signals in, and then we can see what they look like. So back over onto this mode, we click the signal tab. So all this stuff, these are all the signals. Yeah, so let's look at some terminology. 1A, single aspect. 2A, double aspect. So 1A, let's just have a look at it. Yeah, single aspect, that will only show red. 2A, twin aspect. 3A, guess what? 3 aspect. And I'm going to leave you to guess what 4A means. You got it, 4 aspect. What else have we got here in there? So this is a 2 aspect, which is an automatic signal. So the way signals work is you place the asset, and then you have to link the asset to the track, like that. So let's delete that one. Now there's also this 2 aspect 1 track. So if I put that down and click that, it now asks me to put another one down. Right, now I've not placed that in the right place. I just wanted to show you where they are. So Copplopper says your route won't behave strangely with a dispatcher, however. Well, it's all kind of the same thing, to be honest. The signalling is a massive part of the way the dispatcher needs to work, so you must give the dispatcher all the information it needs and help it. If you want to go against the dispatcher, then feel free, but you are going to find your stuff doesn't work reliably, and no one wants that. So, why did that come up with 2 links? So let's just do that again. So that's come up with 2 links. Now, so this is called link 0. The one that's got no number on it here is called link 0, and it's the first one you place. That link 0 must always, well, it doesn't have to be, but it's invariably placed very close to the signal, and it marks the point where, for example, if that signal's red, when you cross over this point here is when the signal thinks you've spadded. Similarly, if this is a green signal, it's this point when either the front or the back of the train goes over it that it will change aspect. This is the other end of the protected section. So I can tell you where we can use one of these right now, just to as an example. We could put just reading the chat. Okay, right, so we could put this, not an auto, a 1 track here. So if we put that here with its link 0, and then we put the link 1 here, what have I done there? What I've done there is I've protected that point. So what will happen here is that this signal will only go green if it can get from here to here, meaning that point has to be set correctly. And it will also take into account whether or not there is a train between here and the next signal. Yeah, so that's how you can protect a converging point using one of these 1T signals. You could do a 3 aspect and it would do exactly the same way. Yeah, so exactly where you place this signal doesn't really matter. CAD, which provider are these signals from? They are part of London to Peterborough, since that's the route I chose the textures from. So that's your 1 track. 2 track signals, so let's stay with, actually no, let's go with the 3 aspect for over here. So 2 track means we get an extra link again. So here we put link 0, put link 1 and link 2. Right. So that means now we will only get a green here if one of these links is completely valid. We won't know which one is completely valid. We'll get to how you talk about feathers and so forth in a minute. But that's now enabled us to go to diverge and converge again over onto that line over there. But I'm going to take that one out because I want to do something a bit different. The other thing that you can do, or you do need to take into account, is the order that the links are placed. So that's link 0 must always be here. I could have placed link 1 there and link 2 here. Normally, link 1 is your main route. Link 2 and beyond are secondary routes. Normally, not always. So that's something that you're going to learn as you go along with what you're doing. Right. These ones, this is a 3-aspect, 2-track, which means there's 2 links as well as link 0. E2, what does that do? So let's place it. So put link 1 and link 2. Right, the E means it's a yard entry signal, if I remember rightly. I'm a little bit rusty on some of this stuff. And what that means is that when I go to link 2, because E2 says that E2 is a yard, like this one is a 5-track, and 2, 3, 4, and 5 are yard entries. When I go from 0 to 1, then it's going to work like a normal signal and manage occupation, and this will stay red even when I've passed link 1 until I get to the next signal down. When I pass link 2, on the back of my tray, it's going to clear it immediately and go back to green again. And the reason for that is because yards with all the manual points must be done with what you do is you take the player out of the signalling system. So that's what the E means. It's taking the player out of the signalling system. I mean, otherwise what would happen is you'd go in here and then you could never get another train to come in there, because this would stay forever sat at red because you've changed a point over here, which meant the message hasn't come back to it. So Coploppermouse says his basic rules for signalling is always set the links from left to right over all possible exits and don't work with main routes. Reason, if you get a big yard you'll lose track of what link is where. Left to right is easy to remember. However, some signals are hard coded that link 1 is always the main route. Particularly on American routes, link 1 is always the main route. So the left to right thing is usually right, but not always. So it will really depend on how you get on with that. So yeah, I know a number of people that do that, and it's not a bad, certainly not a bad. And if the signalling system is designed to work that way, then you're fine. The more modern signalling systems like this, it's actually configurable, so you don't have them. The older signalling systems were hard coded, and some of the new ones still are. But for example, if I now double click on this signal, I can get more detailed options, and I'm going to go through what these mean here. That mean I can pretty much do everything I want to do. That's that. So what's going to happen here is if I go through that line there, then it will stay red until I get to the next signal. If I go through this line here, it will go green again immediately I've cleared the section. Right. Let us take that one out. So these ones here with the E's again. So this is an interesting one. It's a 6T E3456. So that means that I've got a 3-aspect signal with 6 links above and beyond link 0. And links 1 and 2 will behave like normal signals, but links 3, 4, 5 and 6 will behave like yard exit signals, yard entry signals, sorry. Okay, so you've got combinations there. This is an interesting one. So this is a 3-aspect F1. Now, let me just place it so you can see what it looks like. So that's a feather signal. So this has got 2 tracks. Now, an F1 looks like that. An F2 looks like that. F3 looks like that. 4 goes up that way. 5 goes that way. And 6 goes that way. So if you have an F12, it looks like that. An F14 looks like that. Yeah, so just remember it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what about this signal where we've got like F11? Well, let's have a look. You notice that we had a whole pile of links we could place there. Don't worry about where I've placed them. I've just shown them here so you can actually see the links. So when you place link 0, you've now got F11, right, which is that one and that one. What that's saying is that I've got 2 links that go to feather 1, and one link and another link that does something else, which will be the main essentially. Yeah. So what you would do there is, if, say for example, we had another, let's go back to track and we'll stick another crossover in there. and put a bit more track in here just to make life a little easier. That's it. Now, if we were wanting to say this is our two-siding yard and this is the main line, what we can do, I'm just going to, you can pick these up and move them, but I'm just going to delete it and replace it to keep it life easy. Back here, so we're going to do an F11. So we put our signal here, and we put one of them up here, one of the other ones here, and then that one there. Now why have we done that? So what's going to happen here is when I pass this signal, if we are signalled to get to there or to there, we're going to get the feather. If we are signalled to go across here, we're not going to get the feather. Okay, that might be sort of backwards, depending on how you want to work. And the C, by the way, is this call-on indicator down here. So the signalling is complicated, and it's, so let me just start off with, let me put the, I'm going to put an F1 over here, right, so that if you're coming into here, then you can see what's going on. So that's saying if I'm routed from that link to that link, it's going to give me the feather, and if I'm linking to that link, it's not going to give me the feather, it's just going to give me green. Now, you can actually configure that, because over here I can set signal speed limits. So let's say, so link 1 is what's defined in here, and I'm going to say that if you're going this way, it's a 15 mile an hour limit, and if you're going, and this is I'm going to set as a feather 1, right? So that 1 means activate the feather, and that 30 says if that feather's activated, that's actually going to be a 15 mile an hour speed limit. This one is for approach control. I'll worry about that later. That what makes the lights flashing as you're approaching. And this one is the limited aspect, means it will only go up to a yellow rather than going to a green. Okay. Yeah, I'm not really sure how to show about the signals, so I might well be going a bit all over the place here. What I wanted to do was really just sort of show a little bit of all the way that these things work. So one thing that's really important, one of the real basics that you have to get right is everywhere you can get to after. So when your player train passes link 0, it must pass one of these. Now that's really, really important, and that's for scenario authors as well. So even though you're playing the game and you're not, you're writing the scenario, you need to remember that when you're placing a train, if you place the train here, let's say there was a big bit of track here, if you place the train here, then the first thing it would do is pass one of these links, and then the signalling system would potentially break. So you must set your signals in this space here before link 0. So that the first thing it does is pass link 0, then it passes one of these links here. If you don't get that right, that's where a lot of your problems come along with signalling. So Coplopper says, what do signals do? Signals are there to keep trains apart and to keep everything spaced out and generally keep everything running safely. They do that by monitoring blocks between railways. So if we look at where we've got a signal there, we've got a signal here. Now if my train is approaching that and there's a train in here, then that signal here will show red. Okay? If there's a train on the other end here, that shows red. This one shows yellow because it tells me I've got one block left here before the train, before I get a red light. Now, what happens next? So let's say the AI train starts here and moves forward and crosses into this section here. What happens is that a message gets sent down the track back to here and tells this signal what's happened. And then it reacts to it. So this is again where you need to think about the difference between the real world and the way the game works. The game works with all the signals talking to each other, and the real world obviously has a control management system. You've got a dispatch, you've got the signal boxes and so forth. So, I'm just trying to have a look. What else have we got here? This is an interesting. No, we won't Yeah, so there's this theatre signal here. There you go. That's a bit fun. So if you were to place a theatre signal, oh, except this has got loads of links. No, we won't place that. Never mind. So when you're placing your signals, you need to make sure, so the golden rules are, when you're placing your signals, make sure everywhere you can get to is signalled. So let's say, for example, if I don't have a signal which will let me cope with this situation here, and I just place a, let's do an F4 here, and I just place, say, link 1 there and link 2 there, right? What happens is I go into this bit here and I've crossed over to a point. Now the dispatcher's totally confused. Everywhere you can get to must be signalled, as Coplopper Mouse says. That is absolutely crucial. And if you haven't got a signal, you can't double them up. So let's say, for example, I've got another one here. Let's say I've got this 111 thing, right? And I think, well, that'll do what I want. I've got enough links now, so that one goes there, that one goes there, that one goes. Oh, I've got another one. Let's put that one there and that one there, right? You've just broke the signalling system completely, yeah, because you can only get to one thing. If you then get to another one, the signalling system thinks, hang on a second, you just passed that signal. Why am I getting to it again? So the golden rule, to expand on what I've said previously, is when the player train passes link 0. The next thing it can pass junctions, but the next thing it must pass is a link N, one of these other ones. And then having passed this, the next thing it can pass is only a link 0. Yeah? It cannot get to another point. So if I had another point sitting in here, and before I put a link 0 and another signal in front of it, a bit like I've done here where I've got link 0, then what would happen? Again, the dispatcher would get confused and you start running into problems. So do not do that. Make sure that from link 0 you can get to one and only one, and at least exactly one other link. What that means is that you're going to have to adjust the routes you make to match the signals that you've got. So you won't find every possible combination in here. So you're going to need to say, oh, actually I need to maybe get rid of a siding because I haven't got a signal that'll let me that'll let me deal with it. The other thing you could do is put another little signal in here, so you could make your signal. So if we just did this one and put that signal in here, yeah, then I could put another signal in here so that I can get into there. Okay. Oh, this is very confusing, I know, but to be honest, signalling something you've just got to play with. So let me have a look at a theatre. How many links has this got? That'll do. So let's have a look at this one. So theatre 1-1. So if we place that down, and we'll just put it there and there. Okay, it needs 3. That one. And that one, and that one, and that one. No, it needs 4 now all of a sudden. I obviously can't count. Right, that'll do. It's not valid because of that link not being signalled, but what I wanted to show you was, if you've got these theatres, whatever you type in here is what's shown. So I can put U on there and I can put D on there. And if I'm routed into link 1, then this will show U. And if I'm routed into route 2, then this will show a D. So you can type what you like in here. Again, you can put your custom speed limits on there, which is quite flexible. In the previous early signalling, you had to get all the links in the right order, and it would all be a bit more magical. These ones that say plat are raised up off the ground, so that they can sit on a platform without having to actually adjust them. This one is a ground signal with a theatre on it. So what else is there to look at in here? You've got these ones that begin with a G, are more ground signals. These ones are LED, so the ones that say L are LED signals. Traditional ground signals. And again, all the same stuff is applicable. You'll notice this is a 10-track ground signal. Koppel says, explain controlled signals and automated signals. So automatic signals are basically single. All they've got is link 0, I think. This is where my knowledge starts to falter. So I place that into there, and that's it. Now what will happen is as it'll manage up and down in this section, so I can now put another automatic signal in here, right? And that's all that's doing is dividing the blocks up so that as I go through these sections, then they'll work. So in that case, you don't, in these sections, you don't want you don't need to have extra links. So like this one here has got the extra link to manage the converge over the point over here. So you're protecting this junction. When you're actually splitting up your blocks, you just use an automatic signal which only has a link 0, and then what that'll do is this signal will reflect the state of my ability to move to the next section. So you've either got signals with just link 0 or you've got signals with multiple links. So you use the multiple links to protect junctions, and the only ones with only link 0 just to protect and cut up sections of track. I'm trying to think what else I need to look at here. What I need to do is come up with a much more concrete example, and when we'll actually go through signalling it and go through all the pitfalls of signalling it. So Koppel says, basically an automated signal is a signal for the parts of rails between switches. If there's a switch between the signal you're going to place, it needs to be controlled. Why? Because it might need to adjust a switch. If there's nothing but tracks between the signal and the next signal, you just use automated. There you go. That's basically what I said. So use the automatic signals have just got a link 0, and your controlled signals have got multiple links which then protect junctions. So what happens here is that when this is actually listening to messages from the junction. So if that junction changes, a message gets sent down the track, received by link 0, it goes into the signal, and then the signal works out, can I still get to my have I got a connected link, it's called, if it does, then it will then work out whether the occupation says it's okay, and if it is, then it will get a green light. So there's a number of different things going on. So one is occupation, which tells me is there a train in the section, and the other one is physical connectivity. So if the point is in the wrong way, then it's a red light. I don't care if there's a train there. I'm not going to go too much more into this, just because I need to come up with a better example. It is a basic tutorial. What I was more interested in at the moment was, for scenario authors, when you're writing and placing trains, you need to make sure you're placing trains before link 0 and after link n. And then when you route a train, you must make it go all the way. So let's put this signal back up here. Let's put the 3 aspect signal back in here. So the F11. So let's put that in there, put that in there, that in there. I did something wrong there. 1. There you go. Right, so let's say I want to schedule the player, I want to get this player to move to here and then come back again. You might think in the scenario, well, that's okay, because in here I can just create a destination marker and I can just get the train to come in here and then go back out again. That seems like a great idea, but what you've actually done is broken the signalling system. So what you need is to know, it's where scenario authors need to actually look at the signals in the area you're manoeuvring trains, because if I pass link 0, I have to pass one of these links. So what I need to do actually is to route you into one of these sidings and then back again. Yeah, so you need to make sure you're clear, and then of course you need a signal facing the other way to clear them back into the system again. So remember your golden rule: when a train passes link 0, it needs to then pass one of these other links. So you're committed to doing that. If you don't do that, then the signal will be messed up. What would happen, for example, is the train would come in here, this signal would go red. The train would come back out here, the signal would not change again. It will never let a train back in here. That's one symptom that you can see. So that's one thing you want to. Jaeger Pizza says, when I do scenarios, I place trains where I want because it's my scenario, I do what I want. Almost quote from Qwerty Afro. Well, you kind of can, and it sometimes will work. But if you do, and you don't adhere to that, is the golden rule for making scenarios. If you don't do that, then you may have problems. So, for example, if you put the train in there and came back out, and you never route a train back in here again, you'll never notice it's gone wrong. So, you'll notice this much more where you've got big yards, because you'll have a signal on the entry to the yard, and then you'll have something like some of the signals in the big yard on Hamburg, Hanover, Martian yard. You've got signals with 50 links on them, and you've got to get past all these junctions and go into a siding to then come back out again. So, as this is where the route author really needs to help you. So what you would do as a route author is you would actually put all the destination markers in. So let's have a quick look at those. So you can put sidings or destinations. So let's make a siding marker and drop that into there. And we can do another siding marker. So let's make this one just a destination marker, just for some variety. So what that would mean, what you're doing by doing that, you're actually helping the scenario author by saying, when you pass this signal, you can't turn around until you get to one of these markers. So you can create reversing point markers, for example. So that's kind of one of the main things. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that scenario authors really need to understand about signalling. Don't start your trains in the middle. Between here, don't stop your trains in the middle unless they're carrying on, obviously. Don't overlap signalling when you're making signals. So I've got link 0 here and I've got these here. Now let's say I think, well, actually in the real world there's a ground frame down here somewhere, so let's go and get a ground frame. Let's find a ground frame down here somewhere. Underground, there you go. Let's put a ground signal, because in reality I think there's a ground signal here, right? Oh, congratulations, you broke the signalling again. Because what's the golden rule? When you pass link 0, the next thing you must pass must be this signal's link N. Well, I've just found a link 0. Boom, the signal's just got upset. So what happens actually in reality is I pass that signal and everything sort of, it's kind of fine. I pass this signal, it sends a message back down the track. It reaches this signal, and this signal says, oh, I have no idea what you're talking about, and just dies. And then this signal never gets the message, and so it dies. So when you're laying your signals, don't put anything in the middle. Yeah, remember that golden rule. When you pass link 0, you must pass one of the remote links. That's the next thing you must pass. If you pass another link 0, you've got a problem. Now, I've seen some signalling systems that do allow you to overlap. If that's the case, you need to make sure you've you know that's the case with that signalling system. It's not impossible. The signalling systems can be scripted to allow it, but it's more complicated. Pretty much all the signalling systems used in the game by default don't support that. Yeah, don't do it, basically. So I've also said you must cover everything you're going to do. You may well find that you don't have the right combinations of things in here to get to everything you want to do, in which case alter your track so that you do have the right combinations. Or what you might need to do then is go into the blueprint editor and create your own signal copy. And it's dead easy to do, but that's a subject for a blog post, I think, to show how to do that. So I'll think about that at some point in the future, if there's a demand for it. I think that's probably close enough. There are the repeater signals, so if we have, say, for example, a repeater signal, if you're coming up on a platform, then you can put these repeater signals in. And they kind of work very similar to this signal is now going to watch for that signal and then just give you either an on or an off indicator depending on what's going on with this signal. You don't have to do anything to set it up, it just works. You've got AWS ramps that you can add in, so there's TPWS for example, so the overspeed sensor is that one, and then you use the link marker on there, and then you need the dummy to go at some distance back from it, which isn't. So what happens is that in here you specify, when you double click on this, you specify the speed limit here and say it's 30, and if you cross that at more than 30 then the brakes will come on. That's basically the simple bit of it. An AWS should be in here, presumably hidden away under A. So you put an AWS ramp on, and then again you track link it. That AWS ramp will look at the state of the file, and it will set the alarm off in the cab if the signal is not showing a green indicator. This one is a permanent one. Oops. Again, which must be linked. And when the train travels over this permanent ramp, it will always set the indicator off. I've forgotten something really important that I need to make sure I cover. You must put lights at the end of every track using these either buffer lights. There's different signaling systems have them. There must be a signal at the end of every track, so let's put that one here and link it. Okay, now the direction so one of the other things with the signals is the direction of the arrow is crucial. It must always be in the direction the train will be going to approach that signal. Again, as we've covered on other tutorials, if you move the arrow, you press the shift key to change the direction. When I hold it, it turns around. When I release it, it flicks back. So you must put the signals in there. Think about these as like mirrors. You're plugging up the end of the track, otherwise the messages fly off the end. And what happens actually is this signal, in order to know whether to show, let's say this was a 4-aspect signal, how does it know whether to show a green, a double amber, a single amber, or a red? Well, it can show a red based on this, but if there's nothing here telling it how many signals there are going on, then it won't know what signal to show. So whenever you are signaling, make sure all of your ends of tracks have got some sort of light. Now you can also put permanent reds on, so you can do this 1 amp fixed red. That would do it as well. So you could put that in there. And if you didn't want to see it, there's nothing to stop you just burying it under the ground. You won't see it. The location it appears on the HUD is based on this link, not where the scenery is. So this can be anywhere you like. The red will actually appear based on that. So a couple of them says AWS permanent is for speed limits that always come up, Fringe, rather than speed limits. It's for generally in UK practice an AWS at permanent is set to remind you of a speed limit below a certain. I think it's the change of speed limit is beyond a certain amount. So if you're dropping beyond say 20 miles per hour lower than what you are at the moment, I can't remember what the limit is. Or the threshold is. If the speed limit changes by more than a certain amount, then they always put an AWS permanent ramp on it to remind you you've got a more severe change in speed coming up. I'm not entirely convinced I've done anything useful here, but then let's. I think we'll leave it there. What I really like is questions. So if you can go join the Steam group or send me a Twitch message, send me questions so that I can work out what the questions people have are, and then how I can answer those questions. That would probably be useful. A lot of the golden rules about link 0 to link n apply to every signaling system that you can use. The rules about working out putting signals in the middle of other group sections, that applies to any signaling system. Can't do it, don't do it. The rule about what link 1 to link n do in terms of whether they're mainline and so forth is very specific to the signaling system. So most signaling systems are are quite specific. So most of the American systems are quite specific. Most of the some of the other signaling systems, it's entirely dependent on you, because if you double click on the signal and you get the property window up, you can tell it which one is which here. Yeah, so if you've got the feather on here, then by putting 1 in there, I'm saying that link 1 will cause the feather, and if I put it in here, link 3 will cause the feather to come on, but 1 and 2 won't. So you've got ultimate control over it with this signaling system. Naming of signals here, you can name that here. So if I put 1, 2, 3, ABC, it won't show up on here immediately, but if I save the route, come out, and then go back in again, I think I actually have to come all the way out for that to work. So let's come all the way out and go back in. Loading time on this route isn't too bad, it has to be said either. So if I go back up to that signal, it should now have its details set up on it. There you go, 1, 2, 3, ABC. And having done that once, I think it will now reflect the change. Yeah, it does. So you can set the names of the signals. They will also now show up here on the signal itself. So you can do your you've got to set your names up correctly so they can be seen. Right. So someone asked, what is the Panda says, what is the dummy TPWS grid for? That's this one. It's basically because an overspeed sensor works by having 2 grids in reality, but the way the game works, it is just on 1 grid. So you put the dummy grid in where the other grid would have been. Yeah, and you can it's just a piece of scenery. It doesn't actually link to the track at all. So it's up to you where you put it. Right, I think I'm going to call that to an end. Right, let's come out, and so I'll save that. So yeah, I hope someone found it useful anyway. I'm hoping the scenario authors at least can take to heart the golden rules about link 0 to link n, because that's the cause of so many scenario fails that I've seen where signalling goes wrong. Right, so let's do